Hello. Oftentimes in high school graduation speeches, the speaker talks about how his class is exceptional and unique. Quite frankly though, is there really anything exceptional or unique about the average graduating class? They do the same things over and over again for 4 years. On the surface, the Fishburne experience may appear to be simple and ordinary. However, when looked at closely, I would contend that Fishburne Military School gives you a sense of individualism and pride that no other school can offer. I came to FMS for reasons not unlike many of my peers. At public school, I felt lost in the shuffle, like I was a cog in a very large machine. By coming to FMS, I would be able to be an individual in a place where I could know everybody well. The first and probably most important lesson FMS has taught me is how to live with people who are different than myself. My first semester here, I found out what it meant to be easy to live with. You have to learn how to compromise and how to make the other person feel comfortable so they will extend the same courtesies to you. As my fellow senior cadet Blake Justin says, sometimes you just gotta put some socks on. By constantly making compromises with our roommates, we learn how to be more kind, polite, and reasonable people. When I first moved in with Senior Cadet Martinez, there was definitely a learning curve. However, because both of us were willing to compromise, we had a stable living environment. Being around young men whose values are different than mine has allowed me to really understand who I am as a person. At public school, I looked at the kids who did the wrong thing with a kind of envy, and questions like, they seem to be having fun, why shouldn't I be like them, popped in my head. By coming to Fishburne, I saw those same characteristics, but instead of being looked at as cool, they were corrected and held accountable for their actions. From this, I realized that living a life of sobriety and chastity as a teenager is nothing to be ashamed of, and instead of being insecure about who I am, I was proud of myself. In the classroom, I learned lessons like never put off for tomorrow what you can do today. In Colonel Seeger's class, we had an essay almost every night, and time management became essential because procrastination just meant more and more work down the road. The lesson there is apparent for the rest of life, as we must learn to prioritize and stay ahead of our work. If anybody complained about the workload, Colonel Seeger would reply, well, gentlemen, I could just save us all the time and give you a 0. It is this attitude that has prepared us for the real world. As a commanding officer or employer, I won't care why you didn't reach the objective, only that you didn't. Wrestling has always been a big part of my life, as I started doing it as a young boy. However, before coming to FMS, it felt more like a job than something I was passionate about. I would oftentimes skip off-season practices, and I had a bad attitude about hard work. Once I got to FMS, I realized that no one could do the work for me. At public school, I always had someone down my throat about coming to practice and doing the right thing. And although I did learn a lot from this experience, once again, it made me hate wrestling because it felt more like a chore than something I loved. Once I got to FMS, it was my job alone to make sure that I improved. In the fall, instead of sitting down and complaining that we didn't have off-season practices, I sought out the coach at Waynesboro and went to practices there. On my weekend leaves, instead of staying up all night going to parties, I would go to bed early so that I could wake up the next morning for practice. I learned to make wrestling a lifestyle. Every decision I made was based on how it would affect my performance on the mat. From drastically changing my diet to doing schoolwork during lunch so that I could go to bed an hour early, I had a single goal in mind, winning states and placing in national preps. Throughout my time at FMS, I continuously improved and turned that goal into a reality. After finishing third my junior year, I was able to win a state title as a senior. And although I didn't accomplish my ultimate goal of becoming Fishburne's first national prep All-American, I learned a lot about life in the process. I learned that if you want to succeed in life, you have to be willing to put long-term self-interest ahead of instant gratification. That at the end of the day, it is on yourself to be successful in life, and that means looking at what you could have done better instead of blaming other people. Overall, my growth as an athlete and student is analogous to my growth as a person at FMS. Through many difficult experiences, I learned how to achieve what I wanted. I learned what I wanted out of life and who to surround myself to make that a reality. At FMS, the ordinary became extraordinary. Spending time with family was something I and every other cadet here looked upon with immense value. I made mistakes, but FMS has a way of correcting mistakes. Through the help and support of my parents, and without them, I could have done nothing. The staff and the students, I've realized that FMS is not only unique, but exceptional. Thank you for your time.